What's going on, guys? I'm Simple Simon. I'm your Star Wars noob. Welcome to the Noob Rebirth. Today we are doing the sequel to the last episode. We're going to continue talking about Star Wars, but before we do that, please say hi, Mark.
Hi, Mark. Oh, it's not Boba Fett. No, oh, it's Mark. Hey.
It doesn't even have a thing coming out.
Because it's switched off. I don't want to kill you.
Oh, okay, that's fair enough.
You know,
That's
shit,
fair.
man.
Today we're going to talk about Star Wars comic books.
Comic books.
You read the comic
Star Wars.
You read Star Wars comic books?
Yeah, I read Star Wars comic books. Yeah, no, I used to read all the Dark Horse stuff.
cool. Well,
I used to love the Dark Horse stuff.
Well, we're going to talk about it, so
Love the Dark Horse stuff.
let's do this. Alright, so to start off, I would like to know, tell me about your history with Star Wars comics, because obviously you've been a fan of Star Wars since the beginning of the Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
And you've also been into comics for almost as long.
Yeah, you can say that.
So did you read Star Wars comics from the get-go when you got into comic books?
Nah, not really. I got into the Dark Horse when Dark Horse had the license. They did a really good job, you know. It was a series that pretty much continued after Phantom Menace.
Oh, okay. Hang on. So do you know much about the original Star Wars? Because it was on Marvel originally, right?
Correct.
But do you know much about that run at all?
I know
did
the
it-
history of it.
Like, when did that stop? Do you know?
I don't
when
know.
did
I don't know
Dark
much
Horse-
about that, but all I know is that the original Marvel comics had no movie, but they went off the original script and they went off the original concept art. So that's how the basis of the artwork is. And then obviously when the movie came out, the art and the characters evolved to look like more the movie. That's all I know about the Marvel years.
Yeah, because wasn't there the whole thing with Jabba the Hutt was it in the comic book? I think his first appearance is just like a...
Yeah, because in the movie, in the original concept for Jabba was a man. Yeah, and then they moved him into a slug because he was in New Hope. He had an appearance, but they cut that scene, and it was later added on into the special editions because they cut that scene in New Hope. When Jedi the movie came along, they decided to make him a slug, which works even better.
But in the comic book, I feel like he still appeared in as a man, maybe.
Yeah, maybe something. I don't know. I'd never read it, but I knew the history of it in that sense. I really enjoyed reading the Dark Horse run. It more covered the Jedi Council. It didn't do like the Coruscant politics of Coruscant. You know, after Phantom Menace, the Star Wars comic, it was more about the Jedi Council and the Jedis. It was really, really good. They covered a lot of the other Jedi that you hardly see in the movie. You know, like that guy with the big tall head. I can't remember his name. I'm sure you people will remind me in the comments of who that is. Him, and then they introduce some other characters which I end up mentioning in the movies, like a character of a Jedi called Quinlan Vos, which never appeared in the movies, but they do mention his name, right? And he was a Jedi in the comic books. He was a Jedi that they send undercover into a criminal ring. He was really, really good. Like, he was a great character. He was sort of like mimicked off maybe the Native American look of him, but he was an awesome Jedi. He was an awesome character. I was always hoping they would put him into a movie, but they never did. And also another character that they introduced they never even mentioned him in the movies, but in the comics was a Jedi who had the Sand People get up, you know, and he was raised by the Sand People.
There's some big Star Wars stories to come out of the whole Dark Horse run, like the Heir to the Empire was...
Yeah, well, it was a book.
That was a book?
Yeah, same with Dark Empire, I'm pretty sure. So, Heir to the Empire was a book called, by Timothy Zahn. Back then, you know, Lucas owned everything, obviously. So, everything that was created for Star Wars by Dark Horse or by writers, you know, like writing novels, everything went across Lucas's desk. You know, he approved everything. So obviously he approved that story. right? And it was like 5 years after Jedi, and Leia was pregnant, you know, with twins, and it was a really good trilogy. And then there was going from that, they adapted it into the comic books. The continuation of that was called Dark Empire. And then there was Dark Empire 2, so they continued it in the comic books.
And is all the Star Wars comic books, including Dark Horse, is it all canon?
No.
No?
The only canon that they kept was the Clone Wars. Everything happened, whatever happened in the Clone Wars in the comics, they're all canon, right? And like Heir to the Empire, Dark Empire, they're not canon, but they're really good stories. So yeah, so the only one that they left in from canon from that series was Admiral Thrawn, an alien of unknown origin. And he, obviously the character is exceptional, they kept him, but the thing is, what made him stand out is that because he is an alien, and the Emperor is xenophobic. So if you notice throughout the Imperial Army, there's no aliens. And you know, all the admirals and the higher ups, they're all human. So he was a big standout. So they kept him in canon. That would be the only thing that I could, the only things that would like stands out for me as canon, like would be.
It's interesting though, because obviously after Jedi, it was a long time between drinks, as far as Star Wars content goes. I mean, what was between Jedi and it's like over a decade, right?
So 1985 was Jedi, right? And then after Jedi, we got Caravan of Courage, and then we got all the other Ewok stuff.
Yeah, I love that stuff.
And then we got Phantom Menace, which was so 15 years later, I suppose. Close to. It's one of those franchises where George Lucas is a very smart man. It just used to astound me how everything was put into pop culture. You know, may the force be with you. May the force be. You hear that everywhere. You know, Yoda's quotes. You know, and Vader's quotes. It just. That was pretty much it. Obviously, that went along with Star Trek, you know, beam me up Scotty and stuff like that. So all these terms from sci-fi became popular culture, but they were never recognised as you know, works of art and movies by the Academy and stuff like that. So, you know, you just got to wonder sometimes, you know, how these set of movies just creates imagination, just, you know, and he just keeps diving into it, and that's why I suppose his soul there was just taking over his life. Yeah. You know, which is fair enough, it's your bread and butter. Why wouldn't you?
Wouldn't you love that though?
I think you had enough of it.
For people who maybe love Star Wars but have never read the comic books, are there any storylines or runs that you would recommend? I remember you and Sarah were talking about some Darth Vader one, which is set between this and this.
Yeah, so anything current would be, there's a couple of Darth Vader ones, which is canon, which is current. There's the first series, which went for 25 issues, which is like 4 trades. And that is after New Hope. He finds out the identity of the pilot who blew up the Death Star, and that's where in that series is where he finds out who that pilot is, which obviously ends up being his son. So there's that series, and then there's another. When that finishes, they did another series which was after Revenge of the Sith. The Emperor gives him his first mission as Vader, and that's to put together the Inquisitors, which appear in Rebels, I think. And in the current series which they're running at the moment, which is after Empire Strikes Back, that story is basically about Vader going around and putting the hurt on everyone and anyone who corrupted his son after his rejection at investment.
And I guess before we wrap up, something else I guess I didn't even think about talking about was, you obviously love the Star Wars video games as well, I take it?
Not so much. Back in the day, Lucas Arts. The one thing that the games were lacking, there was too many, I don't know what you would call it, the genre. You're in a room and you're trapped in the room. So you got to work out how to get out of the room. So you got to move this block just to get to that block, to move that block. It was a lot of that. And then there was the flight ones where, you know, like Rogue Squadron and...
I was actually going to say, do you remember the arcade one back in the 80s?
No.
And it was, I think you had to go blow up the Death Star.
Yeah.
And it looked exactly like it does on the screen, where it's just the green lines and stuff. It was so hard to play.
The ships were cool, like the ship games where you're first person, you're flying ships, they were cool. But there was no depth. And then obviously the recent games came out. There's that Force Awakens. Is it Force Awakens? No.
No, Force Unleashed.
Force Unleashed. That's it. Yeah, Force Unleashed was changed all that. Force Unleashed not only gave you that same. They kept the tradition of moving this block to that block. They gave you action. They gave you a story, like a really in-depth story, which was awesome. 2 of those games were great. They were great games. And then obviously the recent one, which is obviously supposed to be in canon. Jedi Alliance.
That's what I was going to ask. Is there stuff that's in canon in the video game?
Yeah,
Just this recent one?
Yeah, the one in the recent one.
And very last thing, how well do Star Wars books do at your store? Like, obviously there's a lot of hype around certain books like this bloody Mando cover and things like that. Like how many of your customers order these Star Wars books?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a fair bit. The Darth Vader one is probably the most popular. I have a couple of customers who get everything Star Wars. And that's fine, of course, and it tends to move a little bit off the shelf, but not as much as what I would like. They're all canon. They're all well written. They could get monkeys to write them, really, because the stories are all laid out. But they get really good writers to write them. Really good stories. And everything's in canon. They have respect too for the expanded universe as well. With sales, when there's something on TV or a movie, I see the sales move up quicker. Yeah. Like the people come in looking for Star Wars because they're in that, I suppose, zone. Yeah, like this guy. But saw the Mandalorian and just like his mind just went. I don't blame him, mate. After seeing those bullshit trilogies, the new trilogy that we got,
I think that
and the disappointment of those movies, I don't blame you. It resurrected Star Wars. It resurrected that universe. Hopefully they run with it, and it looks like they are. I'm just pumped for the Obi-Wan series. Go! He's my favourite. Obi-Wan's my favourite.
Luke's my favourite.
Fuck it. Mate, Luke.
Alright, Mark, that is all for today. Next week.
Is that all?
That's all. So that's all we got today. Next week we're going to come back, and what I'm hoping to do is a little bit of a collectibles show and tell with Mark.
So we're going to do it at the shop.
We're going to do it at the shop. So
at the shop.
Mark, one of the OG crew from in fact, it was just me and you. We started collectible show and tell.
I'll have to call in armor guard. I'll have to call in an armor guard escort from my house to here.
I want to talk about the toys and collectibles, and hopefully we'll get Mark to bring in some of the stuff he's got. I've got a couple of things I can bring in, but they're all newbie stuff. So, I mean, I do have Star Wars issue 1.
I have old school stuff.
You do have old school stuff, so yeah.
I do. I'll bring in some of my old school stuff.
Tune in to the next episode of the Noob Rebirth, and we will see some of Mark's collectibles.
Yep, and just a bit of a teaser. I will bring something that is from Empire Strikes Back.
As in?
Collectible.
Okay. Okay. It better be good, man. You just pumped everyone up.
I'm pumped!
What are you talking about? Alright. Until next time, guys. Say bye, Mark.
Bye, Mark!
And keep it simple.
Can you see him in the background?
Wait a second. Check this out.
Okay.
Anyway.
Being a good or bad person is a point of view. So because you're hurting me, you're not a good person. But to you hurting me because to get what you want. You are a good person because
I'm hurting you because you're a bad person.
I'm not a bad person! You would lose your shit. It is so good. The space battles, like during the Clone Wars, they were just... I used to say this when I was watching the Clone Wars, and people would say, I say to me, I'm watching the Clone Wars. I'd rather watch that fucking... I'd rather watch that series than watch the fucking... the prequels. Right?
Okay.
But that series made the prequels better.